You're tuned to KSJE, Farmington, New Mexico, 90.9 FM. And now 103.3 FM, K277CR, Durango, Colorado. KSJE is supported by the Farmington Civic Center, bringing a full slate of entertainment to Farmington and San Juan County. Johnny Piers and the Muttville Comedy Dog Show, Thursday, April 14th at 7:30 p.m. The Farmington Civic Center, 200 West Arrington in downtown Farmington. Find out more online at fmtn.org/shows or 505-599-1148.
Hi, and welcome to Cop Shop. I'm Nicole Brown, the Public Information Officer for the Farmington Police Department, and with me as always is Chief Hebbe, our fearless leader.
How are you, Nicole?
I'm great, how are you?
Good. Another couple of weeks back and the weather's a lot nicer.
Oh my gosh.
Spring is actually in the air.
The wind this week was kind of rough, but
it was rough.
Today is beautiful.
Yes. We have a couple of guests today to talk about an important topic well, I guess it's every year we have this month, but we want to highlight it. And coming out of the pandemic, I think the topic is even more difficult, and we need to really throw the spotlight on it. So welcome.
Yes. So April is
Child Abuse Awareness and Prevention Month, and this is a national campaign, and we've been glad to highlight it here in our area and making more of a focus in the last couple of years to bring light to an issue that at Childhaven we deal with every single day, but also wanting to equip different agencies, schools, families with the resources to help be aware and prevent these things. So Amber Martinez is our new Children's Advocacy Center Director. We're very glad to have her.
Good.
She was with Childhaven previously and returned to us. We're very glad to have her. And I wanted her to join me because she's amazing, first of all. And her background really was in doing the forensic interviews. And so, can you explain what forensic interviews? That is, what a term.
What a term.
Terms.
Yeah, that's very clinical.
Very clinical. Yeah.
Almost intimidating. I'm not sure I want to go through it.
Right.
Yeah.
So, what are forensic interviews, and what is Childhaven's role with the cases, and how do we interact with agencies like Farmington Police Department and other departments in our area?
Yeah, thank you. It's great to be here. Forensic interview, it is an intimidating term. I think people think of it more scientifically than necessary. What it is we have trained interviewers. Right now there's 3 of us that work to talk with children when there's an allegation of abuse, whether that be sexual, physical, and when that allegation comes in, law enforcement calls us, and we work with them to schedule when that family can meet, hopefully as soon as possible. We talk with the child one-on-one. It's a neutral setting. It's recorded. That way that law enforcement officer has that to go to court with.
So back in the day when I first started, it was officers doing the interviews, and I think forensic interviewing came around as a way to be less intimidating to the victims and still supply law enforcement with the ability to make cases. So how long have you been involved in that?
So originally I did it for about 4 years, and then I took a couple years off, had my kiddos, and I've come back now. I've been back since December, and since December alone I think I've done about 30. So
wow.
It does pick up. It's something that's always there, and you never run out of it, unfortunately.
So, and how do you think the pandemic has affected how you, I mean, I know we've seen some effects of, like in our crime stats and that kind of stuff, but have you guys seen that same sort of number adjustment, I guess?
I would definitely say so. I think people being at home more, kiddos being at home more, we miss out on those reports from school counselors, teachers calling them in. So definitely with us being back in person, people being back in school, there's an increase in what we're seeing. Also, I think people just sort of forgot maybe how we handle those situations, and it's really near and dear to my heart to get out and do education with law enforcement and schools on how to report and when to report these allegations.
Adults that are coaches, teachers, really all adults know that they're mandatory reporters, but especially in professional settings. But, okay, so I'm a mandatory reporter, then what? What do I do? So that's been one of the initiatives that Amber's taken on with, for example, with schools. So if a child tells something to a teacher, instead of the teacher then going to the principal, then going to the school counselor, then going to whoever, the child has now told their story so many times, and then when it actually needs to be used for interviewing purposes and throughout the case, that child may not want to tell their story and they may not know who to trust. So can you speak to that? Because I know that's something that now that we're back in somewhat normal times, maybe needs to be refreshed with the general public.
Definitely. And we're getting out. We've done some trainings with Aztec schools and Farmington, and I actually was able to talk with all of Farmington PD at all their briefings and their detectives, which was wonderful. Really, we want to model, the CAC model is that a child tells what has happened to them one time, rather than over and over and over again. Usually when we ask a child to say something again, they think maybe I said something wrong the first time, and maybe I need to change what I said, or maybe something shouldn't have happened, and maybe I need to recant what I said. It muddies the waters, and I think teachers especially and people in the school district, they mean well when they talk to these kiddos, but we really want to educate them on why it's important that we only have them talk about it one time.
And yeah, that's not something I had ever thought of, how if you ask them to repeat themselves, they're like, oh gosh, maybe I said something wrong. And that's interesting. I hadn't ever thought of it that way, but it makes sense.
Well, and it's a traumatic event anyway, and continuing to have them relive it. Either invariably they'll gloss over some of the details, or just to protect themselves, they change some of the details. So, go ahead.
Well, and to come to someplace like Childhaven, who we are a nationally accredited agency that is trained specifically to do this, and pursues further training on things like child and human trafficking. So we're not only on the front lines, we stay on top of what is the current and best practices with this part of the field specifically. And we also have an advocacy center through Childhaven in Gallup, and are working on expanding our services to tribal areas, and also helping those tribal areas set up the best model for themselves so that children all over the Four Corners and all over the state get the same type of help and resource. So that's been an initiative Childhaven has had for years, but we've been able to improve upon that, which has been great. And I appreciate you talking about the trauma piece of it, because also at Childhaven with our family advocates, because this is also very traumatic for the family. So we also have family therapy and family advocates, and we realize that there are multiple aspects of bringing hope, healing, and justice to that child and that family. So it's not just a one and done. There's the forensic interview. It's an ongoing process, and often these cases, it's not just, okay, we got the story and then it's finished. There's a process. So we're just a piece of it.
Right.
So law enforcement, we wind up having training, but mental health issues for our officers as a result of some of the things that they see over the course of the career has been a significant topic in law enforcement over the last maybe 5 or 6 years. My wife's a child advocate, so she gets around some of these cases. How do you and your staff deal with the trauma? I know Janet and I talk about some of the stuff she sees and hears, and some of the kids she winds up having contact with that were significantly abused. How do you and your staff handle that part of what is a very difficult job?
Well, I think everyone's different, and we definitely advocate self-care. So I know some employees choose to work out and make sure they hit the gym at least once a day. Others, we try and debrief as much as possible after a lot of these traumatic cases and make sure we're all sort of pulling our weight as a team. And if someone's had to interview 3 people, then it's time for somebody else to start interviewing at that point, and making sure we're staying balanced, checking in, taking those mental health days when we need them, getting counseling for ourselves if we need that as well.
So it's a topic you guys think and are concerned about.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's a difficult topic. People like kids, and some of the stuff that Janet has seen just as an advocate, we'll wind up talking. Of course, my department's investigated them in many cases, and some of them are just horrific and difficult to process. How we could get ourselves into a spot where you're doing that to a kid, but that's what makes Childhaven such an important thing, and why I'm glad you guys are on, and we're talking about your services, because it is important. The kids are so vulnerable, and you guys are great advocates for them. So. Thank
you, and I appreciate you bringing up. Well, your wife is a wonderful person, period, so you should bring her up all the time.
Agreed.
What a great shameless plug for CASA. Our CASA program is right now doing their spring training, but we are always looking for more CASA volunteers, and for people who want to make that life-on-life difference for a child who, perhaps as a result of experiencing abuse and neglect, end up in the foster care system, child welfare system. A community member can impact the life of that child by the next step in some of these processes of some of these cases going through court, as far as do they need to be removed from their home, etc., or how can the families be reunited, and what's the best way to make that successful. So the community can have a voice with that, and we're thankful for the trained professionals that we do have at Childhaven, but this is a community effort. Childhaven is a community organization. We were started as such, and we remain as such. And so we hope people see that there is a way to participate with us. And then, of course, shameless plug with my job. I'm the development person for the foundation, and we're running a fundraiser right now, The More the Merrier. And that truly is a way for people to join our cause, because not everybody can do what Amber does. I couldn't do what Amber does. That is not my gifting, but it is hers. But people can support all of this work by donating to the Childhaven Foundation, because our goal of the foundation is to ensure all of the programs at Childhaven continue. Those are shelter, advocacy center, foster care, CASA, parent education, which is a free resource to the community, therapy, and every time I'm sure I forgot one. So if I did,
that's
so
a
sorry.
lot to remember.
So and it's a lot of things to make sure continue on. So that's the role of the foundation, and that's also where the community can help.
So how can someone donate and be part of the...
Perfect. Yes. So we have a website, Childhaven NM. There's 2 N's in that. So Childhaven, New Mexico, think of it that way, .org. There's another Childhaven similarly in Washington, and we're always like, make sure we're clear. It's the one in New Mexico.
Yeah.
And there's a clear donate button, and then we're having an event for the More the Merrier fundraising campaign. We have the grand opening of our foster care center on May 20th from 4 to 6. That is open to the public. It's not a ticketed event. We just want to highlight that program and the need for foster parents. So it's just one of those things where there's a lot of difficulties that children are facing, families are facing, and there's a need for us to expand some programming, and we're thankful for the opportunity. So as far as progress and moving forward, it's been exciting to see that happen. But I often say, if all of the abuse and neglect issues stopped in our community, we would be so glad to lose our jobs.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely, I'm sure.
So where is that open house?
So it's at 814 Apache. So the shelter is right across the street from this new building, and we got a really big sign, which every time I see it, I'm like, I just love it. You just know exactly what's going on here. So we have acquired some properties along Apache Street to expand some of the needed services, and as that came available, we remodeled it and took some staff from 2 very crammed offices to now they can have a building to expand that service. As also San Juan County really needs to have some more foster parents, so we're hoping to recruit families who are interested in that.
Well, that's good. So they can donate through the Childhaven NM.
.org.
.org.
Yeah.
Very good. So you can go online and donate. But if you want to get more involved, why don't you talk a little bit first about child advocates? What do they do, and then talk a little bit about foster parents. What if I wanted to be a foster parent? What would what would that entail? What would it look like?
So CASA volunteers advocate for the best interest of children in court. So there is a training process, and I will say for every position we have at Childhaven, there is accountability and there is support. So it's not just, hey, come volunteer one day and you can go help this child. There's a process and there's support and training and ongoing training, and volunteers have to meet a certain number of training hours. And then we have staff that are focused on helping those volunteers in those cases. So we believe firmly that children's voices must be heard, whether through the interviews, whether through the court cases, because unfortunately, and you all see this, there's so many cases. And the professionals involved, from law enforcement to the guardian ad litems to the judges, are outstanding. But it's a lot of cases.
Yes.
So how do we make sure that that child or that sibling group has a voice? You have an adult that learns about that situation, learns that family, meets the parents, meets the foster parents, and can take a look at that case. And not that everybody looks at it as a case file, I'm not saying that either, but to really make sure we bring that human aspect and not just going through a system of something. So that's crucial. And then with foster parents, obviously that is something that takes people many years to probably be interested in and then pursue. So anytime we can talk about it, if it just, plants something in somebody's mind, that's great. But we really, I don't know how to express it enough, we really, really need foster parents. We lost 2 this last year, passed away, one from COVID, one from other just unrelated circumstance. So we really, really need foster parents. And this is an opportunity to make a difference in the life of a child, to be the key to that child's success. And it's also not just fill out some paperwork and,
good luck.
Yeah, good luck. We have really high accountability in our program. So there's different perspectives and views on and opinions on foster care programs, but this is Childhaven's foster care program. We have our own standards that we abide by, in addition to others that are required of us. But there are frequent check-ins, and somebody's on call 24/7, and it's not just thanks for doing something good. Have a nice day. There's a very high level of accountability and support for those families. So again, the website childhavennm.org is where information about that is provided.
And can you start the process on the website, or do you need to come in person or give you guys a call? Or
there's an application online, and also the phone number and email address for the contact person is there. And we'd be glad if somebody really is just thinking about it to just talk about it, and that is not them signing everything away.
Yeah.
Because it really does take somebody. I think the statistic, at least a couple years ago, was like 7 years from thinking about it to actually doing it. So today's day one of thinking about it for somebody, then we'll take it.
Yeah.
Well, that's very good. It's just a topic, either CASA or foster parent, where so often we're sitting around, we're watching bad stuff on TV or in the newspaper, and we're saying, why doesn't somebody do something? Well, yes, we are trying to do something, but it takes those things behind the scenes. Okay, we go and we see the kid's in trouble and he's hurt. Now what? Well, then now what gets you into the CASA, gets you into the foster parents. We have to have places to take them, and we have to have advocates that are actually speaking for the kids during these tough times. So it's an easy thing to say, why doesn't somebody do something? But here it really is a meaningful chance during an important month to help kids in our community.
Yes, definitely. I had a great question for you that I was trying to it was there. It was so good. But with because we also call it the advocacy center, so family advocates, and so with that, as far as the child's voice coming through, how is that incorporated? Because you had mentioned we want the child to tell their story one time, and so for you all in your center, how is that facilitated? And
So when a child comes in for a forensic interview, we always explain to the family or caregiver, whoever's bringing the child in, that they are not able to watch what's happening. They can be called to court as a witness when that happens, and it's also pretty traumatic. The way we're trained to ask questions isn't something that a parent or caregiver really is equipped to hear. Usually, generally, afterwards, the detective will inform the parent what has happened and what the next steps are based off of the interview. But while that's happening, our family advocates sit with the family that's there to support the child, and they're going over resources, the crime victims reparation application, and therapy resources, because it's not only the child that needs therapy, sometimes the family will need it as well, and different resources out there that can help them through this process.
Very good. Well, Andrea, you were on once before, and you seem much more like a natural for the radio these days. Like COVID has just sharpened your skills.
I'm sure I had it at some point. I don't know for sure, but it must have just like activated something.
So if Nicole's, her slot on the show opens up, I'll have to keep you in mind.
Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness!
You seem like you're firing questions.
Really just trying
Honestly,
to...
I think I saw how important it is, and I would always try to reevaluate. What am I saying? I mean, I do, but it's so important that people need to know and be informed and be equipped and help kids. So maybe I became a little more passionate.
No, I love it. It's been great.
I feel like we've made kind of a breakthrough in shyness. Maybe we could have like shyness show next week where we bring in people that have overcome their shyness to now be major speakers on public radio.
Oh, well, thanks. And well, Scott's standing here, everybody.
Oh, speaking of shy. Okay. Hi, Scott.
I'll give Scott some credit too, because he's had me on once or twice a year, and it helps. But the most important thing is that this message is shared, and thank you all for the work that you do. This is a team effort. This isn't just Childhaven. This isn't just FPD. This is all of us working together to make our city, our county, our country a better place.
Absolutely. Outstanding. Holy cow. Governor's election's up this year. You're doing
I think
they're looking for candidates. Andrea Pena for governor of New Mexico. Well, thank you very much for being here. And you've got any other events coming up this month? Or is the fundraiser kind of it and the open house in May?
Well, we do have an online info session for foster care. See, this is one thing I just needed to look at. It's towards the end of this month, so childhavennm.org will tell you exactly when it is. And I have to say, we're almost done here, right? But there's been no mention of the Packers.
I know. I've been in a little bit of mourning. I'm hoping for good things in the draft. The loss of Devontae Adams is still it's a fresh wound. So
our thoughts will be with you.
Well, thank you. Once again, the sarcasm. She has been with Scott.
We might know who
she has been training with Scott.
We know why he's sad. I don't know.
All right, folks. Next month on the radio show. Anyway, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
Welcome back into the business. I'm glad that you're back and helping out. And I agree with what you said. We're all doing the best we can to make San Juan County a better place, for our citizens and for our kids in this case. So thanks for all you guys do, and thanks for being on our show.
Thank you for having us.
Bring us home.
Welcome. I'm Matt Kaplan, Planetary Society, with more of the human adventure across our solar system and beyond. The Planetary Science and Astrobiology Decadal Survey recommendations for the next 10 years of exploration will be released on April 19th. An enormous amount of work will have gone into this report,